is Rhode Island Bureau Chief Wendy London.
Managing Director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, Tony D joining us, the inventor, the owner, the operator, of the proprietor, I guess, of Nedcoin. So
I guess you can call me the prime mover.
I love it, man. I think it's fantastic. So,
well, proud to be among everybody. I'm walking out here and into the barn where I do my work and do the recordings and calls. And Kathy says, "You ought to talk about Nedcoin futures." I looked at her. I said, "Since when did you become Job's wife?" I was like,
well, I thought it was hilarious. So good job with that. A lot of fun. I've been playing.
Well, thanks. Hope it gave everybody some laughs.
All right. So you want to start with programs today?
Well, yeah, and I mean, humor helps. When you're in situations in life that are difficult, and and we've all had a lot of difficulty we've been dealing with over the past 18 months in varying ways. But I'm seeing a trend here, and it's a trend that I think is bothersome. In that we have a lot of money coming into the state, and as far as just leaving for a moment fraud and all funny money and everybody looking the other way aside, we're watching another train wreck movie of just billions of dollars coming in and nothing coming out. And I go back all the way to the Great Society, close to 60 years ago with Lyndon Johnson. The war on poverty, I guess we really didn't win it. And when I listen to people, you have political figures come on, or whatever I'm watching, or whatever the case may be. Lee Elci, why does everybody in the world, even now, I try very hard not to be political. I kind of see myself as a race car driver, and I've got to drive the car that Democrats and Republicans are assembling. So, I am critical when the car doesn't work, but why does everybody in every political party think the solution to something is a program? I just don't get it.
Because I think they can't think of anything else. They don't have any imagination. I'll be honest with you.
It's absolutely amazing. And the thing is, when we look at what's there, listen, there are obvious things. There are absolutely positively obvious things that no one seems to be looking at. Last week we looked at the baby bond situation. $72 million a year for 18 years, happening exponentially. It'll be $1 billion hole. Like a $3.5 billion hole over 18 years. Nobody really seems to care. And what do you see? You see things with gas tax and electric cars and all that. Let's complain about that. That's good. That's fine. I agree. Income taxes, millionaires taxes, but something like this is crushing. I don't hear anybody talking about that. But then we had I'm just kind of doing a recap of some of the things I've been watching, of things we've been missing. Racism is a public health crisis, and people are saying this is something that we really got to look at. Now, I believe in equal access health care for all, but yet what is the solution? Well, we're going to spend, close to a couple of $1 million on that. Again, we create another program. We create dependency. And, I was thinking, how do you stop poverty? How do you stop this cycle, as you say, this lack of imagination? And way back when, many, many years ago, back when, I was a lot wilder person than I am right now, and I'd come in at hours where I now get up now to go to work. And there was a preacher of color on Channel 11 in New York, and I'd be watching half drunk, called Reverend Ike. And Reverend Ike had a prosperity ministry, and he had a great saying, and I'm going to ask you this question. Lee Elci, what is the best thing that anybody could do about poverty?
What is the best thing anybody could do about? I would just say It's the old adage: teach somebody how to fish. That kind of situation. That would be my answer, I guess.
Well, in my drunken haze stupor, Reverend Ike would say the best thing you could do for the poor is don't become one of them.
Okay, I like it.
and that is so true. But that all kind of leads me to this whole thing, with critical race theory. And you as my friend, you as a friend to so many, and you wrote the article. We know what happened with the article. People have opinions on that. And, you showed me the article. I saw absolutely nothing wrong in the article. I saw nothing unfair. That is just my opinion. But we have a system here when we have programs, we have all this money coming into the state. We have people talking around issues and, not really bringing anything constructive. I'm back to this state, actually got to get the title right, the Connecticut State Education Resource Center, known as CERC. They've had $39 million of funding since inception, $9 million alone this year. And if you go to their website, all they are doing, pretty much their entire, whatever you want to call it, mission is critical race theory, racial equity. And I mean, am I qualified to say if this is valuable or valueless? I'll leave that for somebody else. I will tell you this. We're math deficient. We're skills deficient. We're reading deficient. We're basic intelligence deficient. And my question is, how does this $39 million help us as a state, help us as, quote, to develop young people to compete on a world stage? One thing I will say about this, there is this Glenn Singleton who, quote unquote, is a race consultant who is writing books, and the New London school system is drawing upon him for great amounts of programs. And this is a guy who the Supreme Court in the United States said in 2002 is he got into trouble in Seattle. He is probably, and this is their words, not mine, one of the greatest purveyors of reverse racism in this country. I mean, this is what's going on. And I mean, I hate to be political. Again, I want to be a race car driver and drive the car. I don't care if the car is red, green, blue, or yellow. But, people who are Republicans, I mean, yes, I've voted Republican pretty much my own life. You keep this stuff up, man, you will lose. Simple as that, and just as difficult. So
what's the fix then? We're already so knee-deep in these, like you had mentioned in the beginning, the onset of this, all these programs. They come up with a new program for anything, and then they dump a bunch of money into it. More often than not, it's a failure, and then they continue to pump money into it, and it continues to be a failure. So critical race theory, I don't know if it's just one of these offshoots of this, but what's the solution here? Yeah.
My belief, Lee Elci, there's a large part of this state, if I could use this state as a micro, a large part of this country. I mean, Donald Trump, for all his Donald Trumpness, proved it. People are unrepresented. People, really don't want a lot of, they don't want political parties telling them what to do.
Totally.
So what's the solution? People have to be bold and say, hey, we need to change things, change things to the point where, the solutions are simple. The solutions are lower taxes, stop the multiple bureaucracies and make it so profit-making capabilities will come. JFK, a rising tide lifts all boats. Very simple, but I think there's just such a resistance in that because it's a confirmation of failure because it would work. If you spent your whole life believing about, a program will save us, and finds out you get rid of the program and you're doing better, what does that say about who you are?
Well, is there a rash of systemic racism here in this country? Do you believe that?
Listen, where I'm at, I certainly don't see it. It's where the racism is. I think these days is that as a quote unquote senior white male, I see it towards myself. I see myself accused for things that I never did. And I certainly don't. I think what it comes down to is the concept of equity. If you can assail something that you don't like to bring it down, where I have to give you something to keep you quiet, I had more advantages than you do. I mean, I was in a public school system in Stanford with everybody else, and we all had an equal shot at things. And why are the public schools 50, 60 years later a whole lot worse? I have difficulty with that. I really do.
So somebody actually complained. I talked about the column that I wrote. I actually read it here on this show, and I also read it on the national show as well. And one of the complaints I got was a lot of folks didn't like the term that I said equity is not equality. And I don't know, what do you think of that? I mean, do you think that's a true
Well, they're clearly two different concepts. And if you look at this CERC, I mean, they're doing equity walkthroughs through the school. I mean, and to me, that's what my father would tell me was troublemaking. Don't walk into things and do something where something is working, or can work. But no, they're clearly two different concepts. And I explain it as that equity. Equality is you and I have an equal shot for the apple. You get the apple, it's your apple, but it's a level playing field. Equity is you're already advantaged, and you're faster than I am, and you're smarter than I am. When you get that apple, you are obligated to give me half. And all that really does, Lee Elci, is cause a perpetual underclass and a perpetual program. And, when we start having things like baby bonds and things like that, yeah, I work with people to save for their kids and to protect their money. Right. But this, government gets involved in, I don't want the great society in the last thing that people have to work with, which is their homes, their property, and whatever. Government does not know better.
I just think we need to agree that there was, to me, I think there was a time in this country where systemic racism was prevalent. There certainly was a time when racism and racial injustice was prevalent. I honestly believe, and I believe this since the time I cracked the microphone doing talk radio almost 15 years ago, is that it gets better every single day. Now, there are ups and downs, but it gets better every single day. And there's generations that are, even older than us, Tony, and I hate to say it like this, but when that generation dies away, and not all of them are racist, but it eventually, there is a change. This is a changing culture in the country. And I think if we just let it die out and fizzle out, it will. But if you keep injecting it and keep, throwing it into the school and making the white kids in school feel guilty at the age of 13 and 14, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I think it's
well,
crazy.
And the example I always use is that, you've got a flood in your basement, and the person that shows up, the only guy, or a flood or rats or whatever, the only guy in town who could do it is Donald Trump. Are you going to live with the flood? It's like I don't understand it. I really don't. But so it's a little bit of a different perspective today. Yeah. But I'm seeing something here that if we don't fix it, we'll be in a whole lot worse soup. And Nedcoin ain't going to help us here, pal.
Let me see. Somebody's been on hold for a while. Let me see if they want to talk to you or yell at me. Hold on one second, Tony. You're on with Tony D. Who is this?
Hey, this is Mark from Grafton.
Mark, real quick and on subject, please.
Yeah, real quick is. Internationally speaking, what do you think, both of you guys, that are there any big countries like China we have to deal with and we coddle down to them because we're afraid of their military power? That's the question.
All right, Mark, thank you. You got any answer to that, Tony?
I think there's genuine fear because I think the military's got problems where they're trying to have, quote-unquote, the woke military. I mean, there's people in the military that see what the Russians and the Chinese are doing, and they see what we have to offer, and they're walking I think there's a major concern, and we're not hearing about it.
Agreed. Listen, I got to run, but you had a pizza reference here before we go?
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me. We have a lot of pizza. We have people thinking about pizza, and while problems are not, or even Peasers, we don't talk about that. But, pizza's going to save us all, so we'll have a pie on me, folks.
All right, so Dean Martin sings about the great pizza, and that's some more. Tony, I'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Okay, take care, pal. Bye.